I'm Dr. Jake Schmutz. I'm an integrative doctor and naturopathic physician. On this video, I'm going to share with you what are the various causes of the blood sugar spikes, what's causing your blood sugar just to be maintained high, and what can we really do to actually decrease these spikes that happen and actually keep our blood sugar low. First, I want to talk about, to start out, is why do we even care about blood sugar spikes? So the big thing is what happens with the blood sugar spike than just having high blood sugar is when you have the spike, your pancreas pumps out a ton of insulin. Insulin then goes out into your bloodstream and it tells your cells, hey, soak up all this sugar. And then you take all this sugar in, and then that can make you gain a lot of weight, also can cause a lot of other metabolic syndromes over time. But then over time, if you keep on doing these spikes over years and years, your cells are going to be desensitized to insulin. And guess what we call that desensitization of insulin? Type 2 diabetes. So the less we could cause these spikes of insulin, the more likely we're not going to have type 2 diabetes in the future, or even prediabetes, which is still a huge problem. I've seen some research out there that 80% of the United States is pre-diabetic or diabetic. That's just absolutely insane, right? To actually think about that we have so much high sugar going on in our bloodstream, and it can lead to so many different problems. Also, just having high blood sugar, what's the problem with that? We're going to dive into that, but it is going to cause all kinds of chronic illnesses, right? It's going to cause autoimmune disease. It can lead to cancer. It could cause heart attacks. It could cause strokes. It causes Alzheimer's disease. It is the major cause of chronic illness. If you want to help prevent chronic illness, the number one thing you could do is keep your blood sugar under control. Keep these spikes from happening and just keep your blood sugar at a low state. I would say that you would want your hemoglobin A1C at least at 5.4 or lower. If you are at 5.5 or 5.6, I would start thinking, wow, I need to make some changes. I need to start listening to Dr. Schmutz, what he's going to be talking about, because if you don't, you're going to get all these chronic illnesses in the future that I think most of you don't want to have. First, let's start in what causes a blood sugar spike. So let's start with the easy ones. Eating white food. Okay. These are things without any fiber in it at all. So we got the white bread, we got white rice, we have corn, we have juices, and we have sodas, we have candies. All these things don't have any fiber in it at all, which is not going to slow down the sugar trickling into the system. That's just going to be a big flood of sugar. Your pancreas is going to be like, whoa, what's going on? Boom. Tons of insulin is produced, and that's a huge problem. It's going to make us fat, but it's also just going to make our cells not like the sugar anymore, and we're going to lead to diabetes in the future. The second one is still a problem. You could still be getting too many carbs in your diet, which are still good, healthy foods, right? So you could be getting maybe fruit, right? Fruit is higher in fiber. You're not going to get as much of a spike, but you're still going to get a big spike of blood sugar if you're eating an apple, a banana, pineapple, grapes. All these are very sugary. They don't have a ton of fiber in them, and they're really high in carbs. You're going to get a big spike from these. Also, beans and lentils and other legumes, they're going to cause a huge spike. And even worse than these, I like legumes a lot more than others because they do have a lot of fiber in them. They do have a lot of protein in them. And we're going to talk about how these things actually help decrease blood sugar and the spikes, but they are way too high in carbs, and the net carb is still way too high. But we have potatoes, we have yams, all these things. Those are all going to cause huge spikes of blood sugar too. So you really want to limit them in your diet if you want to keep your blood sugar under control and you don't want big spikes of blood sugar. So those are the big ones there. Also, here's some interesting ones that you may not be thinking about. Let's talk about stress. So let's say you're stressed a lot. When you're stressed, you produce a lot of cortisol. Cortisol then releases sugar from your liver, and that will cause a constant high blood sugar. And when that release happens from your liver, you're going to have a huge spike of sugar, and then you're going to make that insulin, which we don't want, which is just going to make us fat, and then our cells are going to be desensitized. So we need to work on some things that we could do to reduce our stress, because that's a big cause of that too. Here's an interesting one too, is dehydration. Who would have thought that me being dehydrated would have actually led to high blood sugar? But it does. So how does it work? So let's think of it this way. Let's think about a half cup of water with 1 tablespoon of sugar and a full cup of water with 1 tablespoon of sugar. Which one's going to be higher concentration? It's going to be the one with a half cup, right? And that's how it is in our own blood too. The more fluid that you have in your bloodstream, which is the water that you drink, the more dilute your sugar is going to be, and your body's not going to sense that your blood sugar is as high, and you're not going to have to pump out all that insulin. It's going to be much better for your body. So you want to improve your water intake. It will greatly help with your blood sugar regulation. Also, sedentary lifestyle, you're sitting around all the time. That's not necessarily going to cause spikes, but it's definitely going to lead to blood sugar dysregulation. So what can we even do to reduce these spikes and decrease our blood sugar? Before I dive into this, I almost forgot. I wanted to talk about infections and how it affects blood sugar. So let's say you have a chronic infection in your body. Let's say you have an infection in your tooth, or say let's say you had a root canal and you have an infection hanging out in there. That can be the main cause of all your high blood sugar could be related to that. Or what many happens, like diabetics will know this all the time, is like, I get a cold, whoa, my blood sugar's out of control. That's not a really big problem. Just you get a cute cold, whatever, it's high for a little bit. But let's say you have a chronic infection. That's chronic high blood sugar over time, which can lead to type 2 diabetes just from a chronic infection. Chronic infection in your tooth, chronic strep, chronic Epstein-Barr virus, chronic cytomegalovirus. That could be the cause of your blood sugar dysregulation is a chronic infection. So you got to go to a doctor that knows how to look at that and really find that out. So I just wanted to put that out there. That's a huge thing that we want to go after. So let's dive into what can we do to really fix it. We need to kill off these infections. I just talked about these infections being an issue. Go to a doctor that knows how to do that. Get the root canal fixed, put in ozone in there, get that all cleaned out. Maybe get a tooth implant because those root canals many times can have all kinds of infections in there. But there's all kinds of other bugs going on like I just discussed that we want to take care of. Then let's talk about food. So to keep these spikes under control, we want to eat foods that are high in fat, high in protein, low in carbs. The reason for that is fat isn't going to do anything to your blood sugar. Protein can affect your blood sugar, but it takes a long time for it to do it. And you're not going to get any type of spike that goes along with that. And then obviously, if you're low carb, with the protein and fat in there, and let's say you have good fiber in there too, that blood sugar is just going to trickle in. It's going to increase your blood sugar, but it's not going to be a big spike at all, which is the most important thing is we want to keep that spike under control. So some examples of that are nuts, seeds, nut butters, meat, oils, butter, cheese. These are all great low carb foods that are high in fat, high in protein, that are going to keep your blood sugar under control. Also, let's say you're actually going to eat some things with carbs. My recommendation is you get something high in fiber, like a legume, much better than a potato or a piece of bread or whatever, because it has much higher amounts of fiber in there and it has higher amounts of protein. But when you're eating a starchy food, let's say like a legume or an apple or an orange or bread or whatever, you want to add some fat and protein to it. So let's say you eat an apple. I wouldn't eat an apple by itself. That's going to be a blood sugar spike. If you want to decrease that blood sugar spike, you eat some nuts and seeds with that, or you have a nut butter with it, like apple and peanut butter. People love that. That is so much better for your glycemic control and not causing the spike than just eating the apple by itself. So whenever you're having like a carb or a fruit, I would recommend some type of protein or fat with it because that will greatly reduce the absorption of the sugar into your bloodstream, and that will help your blood sugar a great deal and you won't get that spike. Like we talked about too, is we want to keep our stress under control. So we need to find out some things that help with our stress. So maybe you could do meditation. Maybe you could do some type of exercise that you like. Maybe you could read a book, maybe even watching a little bit of TV to chill you out. Whatever works for you. Everyone's a little bit different, but you need to find something to actually get some chill time. Because if you don't, your blood sugar issue could be just from the stress and you don't get that under control. You're going to have to be following a very strict diet when all you really need is decrease your stress. And here's a huge one too. Let's dive into aerobic exercise. This is just as important as diet to keep your blood sugar under control. Let's say you have already high blood sugar. When you do aerobic exercise, you have these things called GLUT4 receptors on your muscles that don't exist anywhere else throughout your body. So all your cells throughout your body don't absorb sugar very well when you have type 2 diabetes, except your muscles are going to absorb it great. When you're doing aerobic exercise, you're doing thousands and thousands of contractions of muscles in your legs, in your arms, etc. When you're doing a run or you're biking or you're swimming, etc. That's going to greatly reduce your blood sugar. So let's say you start your morning out with that, you're going to decrease your blood sugar and your average is going to be a lot different. And it helps a great deal in keeping your blood sugar under control. It really helps with these spikes from going out of control. And it helps actually increase insulin resistance to your cells when we do aerobic exercise. We talked about water. We want to make sure we drink plenty of water. You want to get half your body weight in ounces of water per day. So those are some of the basic things. There's a lot more out there that we can do. But if you do follow these steps, your blood sugar is going to be great. You're not going to have any spikes. And you're going to have a hemoglobin A1C of 5.4 or lower, guaranteed. So yeah, if you want to get a hold of me for blood sugar regulation or any other chronic illness treatment, visit my website, integrativemedica.com. Find my phone number there, give my receptionist a call, set up an appointment with me or some of my other great doctors. You could also sign up directly online.